All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah, glad to be back.
Today, we are heading south, way south.
South of the border?
Further south.
Oh, further south.
All the way down to Brazil.
All right.
We are talking about the future of agriculture in Mato Grosso.
That's right. And we've got a really interesting report we're looking at, Outlook 2034.
And this comes from a really incredible group of folks.
Yeah, it's a collaboration. We've got the Mato Grosso Institute of Agricultural Economics, that's IMEA.
Okay.
The Mato Grosso Institute of Agribusiness, or IAGRO.
Got it.
And of course, the Association of Soy and Corn Producers of Mato Grosso. They're known as APROSOJA MT.
Wow, so they got together and they're looking at the next decade of agriculture in Mato Grosso. Okay, so if we were to put a pin in it right now, what is the big takeaway?
Well, by 2034, they're predicting almost 150 million tons of grains and cotton coming out of Mato Grosso.
150 million.
Million. That's more than any other state in Brazil.
Okay, so we are talking major production. And they're not just stopping with the grains and the cotton, right?
No. They're also looking at livestock. Almost 3 million tons of meat. That's beef, it's pork, it's poultry.
Wow, okay, so they've got a lot on their plate.
A lot on their plate, yeah.
Let's start with the soybeans. What are they saying about soybean production in the future?
Well, they're projecting a pretty big jump in soybean production. We're talking over 65% increase over the next decade.
65%?
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
So by 2033, 2034, how much are we talking?
64.52 million tons.
That's a lot of soybeans.
It is a lot of soybean. It's actually really interesting how they're planning on doing this.
Wow.
So first of all, they're going to increase the soybean acreage.
Okay.
By about 33%.
33%.
Yeah, so we're talking 16.62 million hectares by the 23-34 season.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, for context, that's larger than the entire state of New York.
That's a lot of land. Okay, so more acreage is part of it. Are there other factors that play into this?
Yeah, and this is really fascinating. They're also talking about improving the yields, right? So it's not just about planting more soybeans, it's about getting more out of each plant.
Okay.
And they're projecting almost a 25% increase in yields. That'll bring them to 64.71 sacks per hectare by the 2033-34 season.
Wow. So how are they doing that? What's the secret sauce?
Well, it's not magic. It's really technology.
Okay.
Investing in research and development, precision agriculture.
So we're talking about a future where Mato Grosso is just like the soybean mecca.
Yeah, seems like it.
But not just soybeans. What about corn?
All right, so corn, hold on to your hats, because they're projecting a 70% increase in corn production.
70%?
70.
How is that even possible?
It's a lot of corn. We're talking over 80 million tons by the 2033-34 growing season.
Okay, and how are they planning to do this?
Well, like with soybeans, they're going to increase the area dedicated to corn. We're talking about a 60% jump to almost 11 million hectares by the 23-34 season.
So more land for corn. But, land is a finite resource.
Exactly.
So where are they getting this land from?
Well, a lot of this new corn is going to be what's called second crop corn. What they do is, after they harvest the soybeans, they plant corn in the same fields.
Oh, interesting.
It's a really efficient use of the land.
Okay, so it's like a bonus round of corn.
Exactly. And it's becoming more and more popular. By 23-34, they're projecting that second crop corn is going to make up almost 66% of soybean areas.
Wow. Okay, so they're being smart about land use.
They are?
But why so much corn? Is there a global corn shortage coming? What's going on?
It's a combination of things. You've got rising domestic demand, especially from the ethanol industry.
Right.
And then you've got a growing global demand for animal feed.
Makes sense. So corn is more than just popcorn.
Oh, yeah. And then, of course, like with soybeans, we've got yield improvements. Not quite as dramatic as soybeans, but still significant. We're looking at about a 6% increase. That'll bring them to 122.95 sacks per hectare by 23-34.
Okay, so that's corn, that's soybeans. But what about, when we think about textiles, what about cotton?
Cotton's a really interesting story. Mato Grosso is really becoming a global player in the cotton market. They're projecting production to increase by over 52% by the 23-34 season.
Wow.
We're talking about over 4 million tons of cotton.
Okay, and this is being driven by what?
It's really being driven by this increasing global demand for natural fibers, right? People want cotton clothes, cotton products. And Mato Grosso is in a prime position to provide that.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so to meet this demand, what they're doing is they're increasing the area of land dedicated to cotton production. By the 23-3-3-3-4 season, they're looking at about 2 million hectares, which is, again, about the size of Slovenia.
Slovenia, wow. Okay, so we're talking about a lot of land being transitioned to support this cotton production.
We are.
But again, it's not just about, more land, right?
No, it's not just about planting more cotton. They're also looking at improving their yields through things like technological advancements, and they're investing in that, which is great. By 23-3-34, they're looking at an 8% increase in yields, which will bring them to 131.08 arrobas per hectare.
Arrobas? Can you, what is an arroba?
It's a local unit of measurement. It's about 33 pounds.
Okay, so they are really serious about cotton.
They are.
All right, so we've got soybeans, corn, we've got cotton. But with all of this focus on these crops, what happens to the livestock?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's not like they're forgetting about livestock.
Okay.
Livestock is still projected to grow significantly.
Okay.
And it makes sense, right? Because all these grains can be used to feed the livestock.
Right, so it's like they all work together.
Exactly, it's all connected.
Okay.
So for example, by 2034, beef production is expected to hit 1.9 million tons. That's a 7.5% increase from what they're currently doing.
Okay.
Pork is really interesting.
Okay.
Because they're anticipating a 40% surge in pork production.
Wow, why is that?
It's a combination of things. They're expanding their export markets. Okay. There's a lot of investment in the pork industry.
Oh, yeah.
They're expecting to hit 378,300 tons of pork production by 2034.
Wow, that's a lot of bacon.
That is a lot of bacon.
Okay, what about poultry?
Poultry is also expected to do quite well.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at about a 31% increase, reaching over 513,000 tons by 2034.
Wow, and this is being driven by?
Well, chicken is a pretty popular meat worldwide.
Right.
And of course, they've got those favorable feed costs with all the corn and soybean production.
Makes sense. So they're really like creating this ecosystem where one thing supports the other.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. But with all this growth, right, and we're talking about incredible numbers here.
Yeah.
Do they have the infrastructure in place to support this?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
And the report really emphasizes that investment in logistics is going to be crucial.
Logistics? Can you be more specific? What do you mean by logistics?
Sure. We're talking about transportation, right? Roads, railways, ports. Because right now, they're heavily reliant on road transport. And if they want to get all of this production, all of these soybeans, all of this corn, all this cotton, all this meat out to the rest of the world, they're going to need to improve that infrastructure.
So they could potentially run into some roadblocks, so to speak.
Yeah, they could. It's like trying to fit, a whole orchestra through a revolving door. It's
Nice.
just not going to work efficiently. They need to invest in those roads, in those railways, and in those ports if they want to realize this vision of being a global agricultural powerhouse.
So essentially, they've got all the ingredients for success, but now they need to figure out how to get the recipe right.
Exactly.
It's amazing how Mato Grosso has the potential to really impact the global food supply.
Oh, absolutely. And, this kind of growth,
Yeah.
it doesn't come without its challenges, right?
Right, exactly. And one of the things that the report really highlights is this idea of converting pasture land to cropland to support all of this growth. Right.
Mato Grosso could really become a vital food supplier for the world.
Right.
And that's really important when you think about global food security concerns, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Feeding a growing planet is like the challenge of our time, right?
Exactly.
So we've got the good, but what about the potential downsides? What do we have to be concerned about?
Well, one of the biggest concerns is always going to be deforestation, right? And, the report does emphasize that they're really focused on converting existing pasture land
Okay.
rather than clearing new forests. But there's always that risk, especially with the scale of growth that they're talking about.
Right, so it's almost like the pressure to produce could lead to some, potentially unsustainable practices.
Yeah, and it's a tough balance, right? Because they've got to meet this growing demand.
Right.
But they've also got to protect the environment.
Right, which is the whole, foundation of their industry in the first place.
Exactly.
What about technology? Because we talk a lot of, technology on the show. It's usually focused on artificial intelligence and things like that. But
Yeah.
what role does technology play in all of this?
Technology is going to be huge.
Okay.
And it's already starting to play a big role. When you think about precision agriculture, remote sensing, data analytics,
Okay.
these tools can really help make farming more efficient less wasteful,
Okay.
and ultimately more sustainable.
Okay, give me an example. Like, how does this actually work in the real world?
Okay, so imagine drones flying over the fields, right?
Okay,
Equipped with sensors.
got it.
And these sensors are collecting data on everything. Soil moisture, nutrient levels, plant health,
Okay.
even pest infestations.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of that data gets analyzed using really sophisticated algorithms. And it gives farmers real-time insights into what's happening in their fields.
So it takes the guesswork out of it.
Exactly.
Interesting.
They know exactly what's going on, where they need to apply water, where they need to apply fertilizer, and that minimizes waste.
Okay.
It reduces the environmental impact.
So it's all about working smarter, not harder.
Exactly.
I like that.
And it's not just about what's happening on the ground. We're also talking about satellites,
Okay.
remote sensing technologies that can monitor deforestation, track land use changes.
Wow.
So it's like having a watchful eye in the sky.
It's like Big Brother for the environment in a good way, right?
Exactly. It's about accountability,
Right.
transparency, making sure that everybody's playing by the rules.
Right. So technology's got a huge role to play.
It does.
Well, that is a fantastic note to end on. Thank you so much for this incredible deep dive.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
It's always fascinating to talk to you. I learn something new every time.
Well, I learned from you too.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey to Mato Grosso.
Safe travels.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.